The diner sat at the edge of the lonely highway like a warm, stubborn lantern in the night, its neon sign flickering against the drizzle-soaked darkness. Inside, plates clinked, the coffee machine hissed, and a low hum of laughter came from the corner booth where the bikers had gathered after a long day's ride. Their jackets were still damp from the rain, boots muddy, but their spirits light as they teased each other over who took the wrong turn back at the crossroads. The waitress knew them well and didn't mind their rough looks, they tipped well and caused no trouble. That calm broke the instant the front door slammed open with a force that echoed through the diner like a gunshot. The wind swept in first, carrying the scent of rain and cold asphalt, but it was the small figure that stumbled in after it that made everyone freeze. A little girl, tiny and trembling, her pink jacket soaked through, strands of hair plastered to her forehead, stood in the doorway gasping for air as if she had run miles. For a moment, she couldn't speak. She looked around wildly, eyes wide and panic-stricken, like a frightened animal searching for safety. When she spotted the group of bikers, something in her expression shifted, desperation sharpening into a plea. Her legs nearly buckled under her, but she forced herself forward, tiny sneakers squeaking on the floor. The biggest biker, the gray-bearded man with broad shoulders and a quiet presence, set down his mug and rose slowly so he wouldn't scare her. "Easy, sweetheart," he said, kneeling to her level. His voice was low, steady. "What happened?" The words erupted out of her in a broken rush. "They're beating my mama," she sobbed, pressing her fists against her eyes. I tried to stop them, but they shoved me and she told me to run and get help." Her voice dissolved into hiccups and trembling breaths. "Please, they'll kill her. Please help." Every sound in the diner died. The waitress covered her mouth. A trucker stood halfway out of his seat. The bikers exchanged looks. Hard, sharp, the kind that carried silent understanding. The gray-bearded man gently placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "Where?" She pointed toward the dark stretch of road outside, her whole arm shaking. "Back there, near the old gas station, please." The biker stood. Something changed in him. An energy, a focus. "Boys," he said quietly, and that one word was enough. Chairs scraped. Boots hit the floor. Jackets zipped. No hesitation. No second guessing. The little girl tugged on his vest again, voice barely a whisper. "They're really big. They'll hurt you too." He crouched again and wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. "Not while we're breathing," he said. "You're safe now. Let's go get your mama." The engines roared back to life outside, echoing through the night like thunder preparing to strike. The girl climbed onto the bike, gripping tightly as the biker revved the engine. Behind them, the entire diner watched with held breath as the bikers rose into the storm. Not just riders now, but a force moving with purpose and fire. The road stretched ahead like a black ribbon swallowed by darkness, the rain falling harder now, turning the world into a blur of wet asphalt and shimmering reflections. The bikers rode in formation, engines snarling through the night, their headlights slicing through the curtain of rain. The little girl clung tightly to the gray-bearded biker's vest, her small fingers trembling but determined. Every bump in the road made her tense, every gust of cold wind reminded her of the danger waiting ahead. But she kept pointing the way, her voice tiny but steady near his ear. "It's close, just past that big sign." He nodded, though she couldn't see him. "We're right behind you, sweetheart. Just hold on." The gas station appeared like a ghost in the distance, abandoned years ago, its windows boarded up, its sign rusted and hanging crooked. The parking lot was cracked, weeds pushing through the concrete. But tonight, it wasn't empty. As the bikers slowed, voices carried through the rain, harsh, angry, violent. The girl stiffened. "That's them," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Mama, she's here." The bikers cut their engines simultaneously, the sudden silence heavier than the thunder rumbling overhead. They listened. A woman's cry pierced the air, a sound of pain, fear, and desperation. The gray-bearded man's jaw clenched. Without a word, he motioned for two men to guard the girl. She didn't want to let go, but he gently pried her hands from his vest. "You're safe. Stay back with them. We'll handle this." He didn't wait for a response. None of them did. They moved as a unit, boots splashing through puddles, muscles tense, eyes sharp. The shouting grew clearer. 3 men stood near the side of the building, one gripping the woman's arm, another shoving her against the wall, the third laughing as if this were entertainment. Her clothes were torn, her face bruised and swollen. She tried to shield herself, but she was exhausted, too hurt to keep fighting. "Hey!" The gray-bearded biker's voice boomed across the lot like thunder. The attackers froze, turning toward the sound. Their expressions twisted from annoyance to confusion to something colder, fear, when they saw the bikers closing in. "What the hell do you want?" one of the men snapped, stepping forward as if trying to assert dominance. The biker didn't answer. Rain streaked down his face, mixing with the anger burning in his eyes. Behind him, the other bikers spread out, forming a solid wall. "Walk away," the attacker warned, but his voice cracked. He wasn't used to being the one intimidated. The biker took one more step. "Let her go," he said quietly. Too quietly. The tension snapped. One of the attackers reached into his jacket. Another swung his arm as if ready for a fight. The woman cried out again. And the bikers moved. The moment the first attacker lunged, everything exploded into motion. The bikers surged forward, not with reckless fury but with the precision of men who had seen more fights than they could count. The rain made the ground slick, the air dense, but nothing slowed them. The gray-bearded biker caught the attacker's wrist mid-swing, twisting it sharply until the man dropped what he was reaching for, a pocketknife that clattered against the wet pavement. The attacker screamed, but the biker didn't let go. He shoved the man back with such force that he stumbled into a puddle, slipping and falling hard. Two more bikers were already moving toward the others, their boots pounding across the concrete. The second attacker, the one who had shoved the woman earlier, swung wildly at a biker with a shaved head and tattoos crawling up his neck. But the biker sidestepped effortlessly, grabbed the man's shirt, and slammed him against the wall with a thud that echoed through the empty lot. "You like pushing people who can't fight back," he growled. The man tried to speak, but fear choked his words. The third attacker, realizing they were outnumbered and outmatched, turned to run, but one of the bikers grabbed him by the collar, yanking him backward. The man fell onto his knees, hands slipping on the wet ground as he tried to crawl away. A biker planted a boot beside him, stopping his escape. "Where you going, tough guy?" While the attackers were being subdued, the gray-bearded biker hurried to the woman. She was slumped against the wall, her breathing shallow, her arms bruised, her lips split. When she saw him approach, she flinched, reflexively raising her hands to protect herself. "No, no, please." He knelt beside her, palms open to show he meant no harm. "You're safe now," he said gently, his voice softening in a way that didn't seem possible moments earlier. "Your little girl got us. You hear me, she's safe too." Her eyes widened in relief, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. "My baby, where is she?" "Right over there." He pointed behind him, and as if on cue, the little girl broke past the biker guarding her, running toward her mother with a sob that carried all the fear she had held inside. She threw herself into her mother's arms, clinging to her with a desperation that made even the toughest biker swallow hard. The woman wrapped her arms around the girl, though she winced from the pain. "I'm okay," she whispered into the girl's hair. "I'm okay. You did so good." She kissed her daughter's head again and again, as if trying to erase the terror of the last hour. The bikers stood around them, forming a circle, not of menace now, but of protection. The attackers, bruised, restrained, and shaken, sat huddled on the ground, too scared to move. The gray-bearded biker turned to his men. "Call it in," he said. "They're not going anywhere." And in the dim rain, under the crackling neon sign of an abandoned station, justice finally began to settle. Blue and red lights flickered across the wet pavement as the sirens grew closer, cutting through the night with sharp urgency. The bikers stood silently, rain still dripping from their jackets, their shadows long and still under the flashing lights. The attackers sat against the wall in defeat, wrists zip-tied, soaked, bruised, and suddenly very small compared to the chaos they had created. They didn't speak anymore. They didn't dare. The woman, though exhausted and hurting, held her daughter protectively against her chest. The girl refused to let go, her tiny arms wrapped around her mother's neck with a strength born of fear and love. The gray-bearded biker draped his leather jacket around the woman's shoulders to shield her from the cold. She tried to protest, but he shook his head once, firm but kind. "Just for now," he said. "When the police arrived, Their boots splashing through puddles, they took one look at the scene and understood immediately that the bikers had stepped in long before they could. An officer approached the gray-bearded biker, raising an eyebrow as he surveyed the restrained attackers. "You boys handled things," he said carefully. "We stopped it," the biker replied. "You handle the rest." The officer nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. They began gathering statements, taking photos, reading rights. But the bikers stayed close to the woman and child, creating a silent wall around them until the officers assured them that they were safe. The woman looked up at the bikers, her eyes still swollen but filled with gratitude so deep she couldn't put it into words. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You don't need to," said the biker with the tattoos, his tone gentler than anyone would expect from a man who looked like him. "Your little girl is the one who saved the night. She's brave as hell." The girl peeked up shyly from her mother's shoulder, cheeks still wet. I didn't know who else to go to." The gray-bearded biker crouched beside her again, giving her that same steady look he had given in the diner. "You came to the right people, sweetheart. You were strong. You protected your mama. That's what matters." A paramedic approached the mother, urging her toward the ambulance for proper treatment. She hesitated, looking back at the bikers as though afraid that moving away from them would break the safety she'd found. The gray-bearded biker gave her a reassuring nod. "Go on. We'll be right here while they check you out." As the doors of the ambulance closed, the little girl pressed her hand to the window, and the biker lifted his own hand in a quiet promise that she wasn't alone. When the ambulance pulled away, the rain finally eased, leaving only the soft hiss of the road. The bikers walked back to their motorcycles in silence, the adrenaline slowly draining, replaced by a calm sense of purpose. The gray-bearded man paused before starting his engine and looked toward the direction the ambulance had gone. "Let's head to the hospital," he said. "Make sure they get home safe." The others nodded without question. Engines roared back to life, echoing through the night like a protective vow. And as they rode off, the little girl's courage and the bikers' fierce loyalty left a mark on that dark highway, proof that even in the bleakest places, unexpected guardians can rise from the storm.